Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, one person was hurt after a roof collapsed this morning.
And it has been nearly 3 weeks since the Ohio train derailment. Today we are getting a better idea of what led up to the crash.
And after record highs, we're getting back to normal as we close out the work week. Details ahead as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley.
And I'm Olivia Calfee. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg visited the scene of the toxic train derailment in Ohio and met with frustrated residents.
This morning, the National Transportation Safety Board revealed it's looking at a wheel bearing in the final stages of overheat failure just moments before the crash. CBS's Nicole D'Antonio has the latest from Washington.
On his first visit to the Ohio crash site, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg saw the broken and burned remains of the derailed Norfolk Southern freight train.
We're going to be here day in, day out, year in, year out, making our railroads safer and making sure Norfolk Southern meets its responsibilities.
Buttigieg addressed criticism for not coming to East Palestine sooner.
I felt strongly about this and could have expressed that sooner. Again, I was taking pains to respect the role that I have and the role that I don't have, but that should not have stopped me.
On Thursday, the National Transportation Safety Board released a preliminary report saying the train crew did not get an early warning about an overheating axle just before the disaster. The report says the train was traveling just below the speed limit of 50 miles an hour as it flew off the tracks, and the crew then alerted dispatch of a possible derailment.
The report does not contain a probable cause that comes at the end of the investigation. It contains only factual information collected during the on-scene portion of this investigation. But I can tell you this much, this was 100% preventable.
Here in Washington, the NTSB also announced this spring in East Palestine, the agency will hold what it calls a rare investigative field hearing, including witnesses.
I'm afraid of the chemicals coming here and the after effects, and you don't know.
Activist Aaron Brockovich is set to visit the area tomorrow and meet with local residents. Nicole D'Antonio, CBS News, Washington.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro's administration has made a criminal referral of Norfolk Southern to the state attorney general's office. A Capitol rioter who tweeted a threat to Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be spending more than 3 years in prison. Garrett Miller was sentenced yesterday. The 36-year-old from Texas pleaded guilty in December to assaulting police officers at the Capitol and threatening AOC on Twitter. He was arrested weeks after the riot while wearing a shirt that said, "I was there, Washington, D.C., January 6, 2021. Court documents say Miller brought a rope, a grappling hook, and a mouth guard with him to Washington. Prosecutors say he was detained twice during the riot. They say after leaving the Capitol building, he went on Twitter and responded to an AOC tweet with, quote, "Assassinate AOC." A judge sentenced R. Kelly to 20 years in prison today in a federal child pornography case in Chicago. In September, the disgraced R&B singer was convicted of producing child pornography and enticing a minor to engage in criminal sexual activity. The sentence means Kelly could leave prison when he is about 80 years old.
The war in Ukraine is about to enter its second year, and Russia may be seeking help from China.
That country's top diplomat met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow yesterday. Putin said he is looking forward to a visit from Chinese President Xi Jinping.
CBS's Weijia Zhang is at the White House, where U.S. officials are concerned about China's closer ties to Russia.
President Biden returned to Washington last night after a whirlwind visit to Ukraine and Poland. Back in Warsaw Wednesday, the president underscored America's allegiance to NATO members from Eastern Europe.
We will defend literally every inch of NATO.
Just 700 miles away in Moscow, another world leader flaunted a powerful alliance. Russian President Vladimir Putin met with China's top diplomat Wang Yi, declaring he was looking forward to a visit from President Xi Jinping. Now, U.S. officials are concerned that Beijing will supply lethal aid to the Russian army.
What does China get out of this public display of support for Putin? at this time.
On the one hand, they don't want Russia to lose. On the other hand, they know that their economic fortunes are tied to stable relations with Europe and the United States.
Evan Medeiros was the top advisor on the Asia-Pacific in the Obama administration. He says the U.S.-China relationship is on a downward spiral since the U.S. shot down a Chinese spy balloon that made its way over sensitive military sites earlier this month.
That incident, combined with Wang Yi's criticism of the United States and now his trip to Russia, that clearly has crossed that threshold into a new type of Cold War.
And in a new interview, President Biden criticized Putin's decision to suspend participation in the last remaining nuclear arms treaty between the U.S. and Russia.
It's a big mistake to do that, not very responsible.
President Biden went on to say that he does not believe Russia's withdrawal from that treaty means that Putin is actually considering using nuclear weapons. Chinese officials say any so-called intelligence that there will be an arms transfer to Russia is just speculation. Weijia Jiang, CBS News, the White House.
China and Russia insist their growing relationship has nothing to do with any other countries, but experts on the region say it is unquestionably a message to the United States.
Plenty of sunshine through the day, as well as some breezy southerly winds got us up into the upper 70s in many spots today, at least the middle 70s in most places. We're still there in some parts of the region, but the clouds are starting to work back in. The view from Somerset, we still have the clouds in place. 77, the current reading there. It's been a nice afternoon to spend there on the downtown square. Speaking of downtown squares, or should we say triangles, the view from Triangle Park here in Hazard. Still have some of those clouds moving in, but still some sunshine. 73, the current reading there. We continue to see middle and upper 70s throughout the region, and we'll continue to see that at least until some of this shower activity tries to move in. We see westerly gusts at times up to 20 miles per hour in some locations, but for the most part, we are continuing to be on the quieter side. Mostly a clean sweep. Starting to see a few showers checking into places like Estill and Powell counties as we watch what's left of those showers from along that boundary moving on into the region. We're not done yet, though. We still do have a couple of showers possible tonight. We'll detail the possibility for those as we head back to normal in a few minutes. Olivia?
Thank you, Evan. One woman was hurt after a roof collapse in Winchester.
It happened at a building downtown this morning. Hallie DeVore has more on what officials say may have caused the collapse.
Very blessed that more injuries didn't incur because of this incident.
One woman was taken to the hospital after a parapet collapsed on a building on the corner of South Main Street and East Lexington Avenue in Winchester. A parapet is the low protective barrier that extends about 2 feet above the flat roof line. It collapsed onto the roof, which pancaked into the apartment below. The woman was taken to medical care just as an abundance of caution after she experienced an accelerated heart rate. She is expected to be okay, and no one else was hurt.
Very thankful for the time of day that the children were in school. Also thankful that it's not nighttime. So all in all, it's a bad day, but it could have been much worse.
Chief Whiteley says that he believes the building housed 4 apartments and a business property on the bottom floor. Despite the damage to their property, the business owners are choosing to remain positive.
So that's kind of what we keep doing, is just staying positive. We'll get us a new office, we'll keep going, and it just doesn't slow us down.
Chief Whiteley says that water may have caused the collapse, but they are still investigating. And the Winchester Fire and Police Departments made efforts to make sure something like this doesn't happen again.
We flew aerial over all of downtown Winchester to make sure that there was no standing water on any other businesses or residences. We found 2 that probably need a little bit of addressing, so we'll make contact with them just to do some preventive maintenance in order to prevent this in the future.
Reporting in Winchester, Hallie DeVore, WKYT.
Main Street there in Winchester and the area around the building have since reopened. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, during tough economic times, layoffs can be an unexpected occurrence. An expert weighs in with advice on how to prepare.
And cooler weather continues to pour into the region later tonight as we see temperatures back near normal soon. How soon is coming up.